We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football, and if you do as well. If you need just a little bit of extra college football content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, as we are 4 Saturdays away from football 2023, subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your psychiatrist. Share it with your priest. Share it with your significant other. Share this video across all social media platforms. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to come on in to the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. A legend in the comment section and with your phone calls. Welcome in. We have a stacked show. And before I get too far, make sure you go to the description box, hit the link, check out our merchandise store. You got t-shirts, keep your head on a swivel. You got the Cloak and Dagger mugs, and everybody knows in the PATC community what this is all about. Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger. Drink responsibly tonight during the show. Your coffee, your tea, your tequila, your Diet Coke. Okay. Man, oh man, we have a stacked show. I have been working like a dog to get ready for this. I was going to break some news about Oregon and Washington, although for those in the PATC community, you all know more than anybody, I'm sorry to say this, but more than anybody, PATC, we have told no lies when it comes to Oregon and Washington in the interest of the Big Ten. It was either going to happen now or happen 5 years from now, but it was going to happen. The Big Ten is not going to be a 20-school conference with only 2 schools west of Lincoln. I'm sorry, USC. I'm sorry, UCLA. I'm sorry for the rest of the Pac-12. And I'm sorry for those who slinged the arrows at me. But that was always going to be the case. And we were told that before June 30, 2022, when the rest of the country was waking up to USC going to the Big Ten. When we cracked that story March 31st of 2022, peek around the corner, told no lies. Let's get to, we got a whole bunch to get to, but Pete Thamel just broke in with an article. I did not have time to capture the images. It just broke. I was busy doing other parts of the show. So you all have to, you all got to bear with me here. I'm going to read the article. I do not have it up on the screen. It's ESPN Plus. I have the article. I'm going to read it. So everybody, I'm going to set the stage. I'm going to set the stage for the Pac-12 saga and the ACC drama. No question about it. Pac-12 saga is Act 13. Act 14 is going to be tomorrow. We're still in Act 1 of the ACC. I'm setting the stage. We're talking about it. The hot bubble of action. You know what that was all about, Conundrum. We were the ones. Well, enough of that. Let's get to the Pete Thamel article. I'm going to read it. This was he just put it out there, ladies and gentlemen. Nearly 2 months ago in Washington, D.C., University of Arizona President Bobby Robbins sat on a panel with NCAA President Charlie Baker at an event Arizona organized about the future of college sports. Little did Robbins know that within a few weeks he'd be the central figure in determining the actual landscape of how college athletics is currently constructed. With Colorado announcing its departure for the Big 12 last week, the future of the Pac-12 is uncertain. Commissioner George Kliavkoff has long told potential television partners he need clarity on what a television deal could look like by July 31st. The Pac-12 presidents are expected to meet Tuesday, that is tomorrow, to finally get from Kliavkoff what they hope is a strong vision of what the league's television deal will look like. Quote, the expectation is these schools want clarity and details on a number and that a deal is going to eventually get done, said an industry source. They want to know what is the deal options. Arizona has been at the forefront for a potential move to the Big 12, as it had most extensive talks with the league prior to Colorado departure. A move by Arizona to the Big 12 would significantly weaken the Pac-12, putting an unstable league on the brink. And no one realizes this more than Robbins himself. We talked about peek around the corner of all the Pac-12 presidents. Robbins knows college sports. He's interested. He knows it above all the other Pac-12 presidents. He knows what his decision, how impactful it could be to the future of college athletics. Back to the article. He knows the gravity, said a person familiar with Robbins' thinking. He does not want to be the one to break apart the Pac-12. That's why sources say Arizona State, and Utah, the Pac-12's remaining 3 of the so-called four-corner schools, are expected to lump their futures together. As another industry source pointed out, I don't see any of them having the fortitude to break up the Pac-12 themselves, they'll break as three. It's either going to be all three leave or none leave. Will they stay? Will they go? It all depends on what Kliavkoff presents on Tuesday, as he looks to convince them there's a deal with enough money and exposure to stay together. The Pac-12's deal expires after the upcoming school year, which would mean every school could walk without paying any type of exit fee, just like USC, UCLA, and now Colorado. Given the complexities of any additional moves, the deliberate pace at which universities tend to operate, there's likely not going to be any hard and fast decisions on Tuesday night, tomorrow night. But the start of this week is going to set the table for the Pac-12 stability and viability going forward. What would it look like in the Big 12 if Arizona State, and Utah all joined the conference? Holy smokes. Sources have indicated the Big 12 would work with its media partners to figure out a way to make the economics work, to bring them all in, to go from 12 to 16. All four corner schools. Brett Yormark is throwing the bomb. He's going for broke. Those are my words, not Pete Thamel's. I should have made that clear. Much of this ends up on Robin's plate because he's the most entrenched of the presidents involved in the three remaining corner schools. The tenor has changed from what Robin said 2 months ago. I'm not anxious about this, he said, in Washington, D.C. I know it's important. I have the full confidence we're going to get where we need to be. How could things unfold from here? How could things unfold from here? As always with realignment, there are myriad possibilities with serious ripple effects for the Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, and beyond. What's next for the Pac-12? If the embattled Kliavkoff doesn't have a TV deal that's robust enough in both money and exposure, the future of the league will really be in flux. Colorado's departure was a blow to perception, but the loss of 3 additional schools to the Big 12 will completely kneecap the league and significantly decrease potential television revenue. Not only that, is everybody listening to what I'm about to say? Is everybody listening in the chat? Give me a Y. Give me a Y in the chat, because the next part, you need to listen. Give me a Y in the chat, a yes in the chat. We got the Ys. Jeff Olson, Evil Badgers listening. Obsidian, Laura Weiss, Texas Tech Raider, Movie Town Blues, Coos Corner's in the house, the great Coos Corner, Jason Noble, Glenn Wilson, David, Danielle, Who Cat, David. Not only that, it would send Washington and Oregon begging to the Big Ten, or even more unappealing, contemplating life as independents. Simply put, we'll get back to Oregon and Washington in a moment. Simply put, a deal has to be good enough to keep Arizona State, Utah in the Pac-12. This all unfolds amid a backdrop where it's an open secret that Oregon and Washington covet Big Ten invitations, where the TV payouts are nearly double that of any league not named SEC. But the unknown variables on when the Big Ten could expand again are both time and legal complications of any ACC school leaving. More on that later. The cold reality is the remaining Pac-12 schools need to know any arrangement is temporary. The Pac-12 deal has long been believed to be a short one. And while the league has been quick to trumpet that grant of rights that has been agreed upon, that's just rhetoric until there's a deal attached to it. As we said at Peek Around the Corner. A verbal agreement of the grant of rights without immediate deal means nothing. Not a zilch. Nothing. One of the few certainties in a fluid situation is that no matter the league structure, Oregon and Washington don't plan on committing to anything long term, nor would they be subject themselves to an exorbitant exit fees. And here is the PATC money shot. Here is the PATC money shot of the Pete Thamel article. So what will Oregon and Washington do? Oregon and Washington don't want to go to the Big 12. If they're going to switch leagues, despite the hurdles, it's the phrase that we keep using, hurdles. Do you ever notice everybody is stealing our phrases at Peek Around the Corner? More on that later. Despite the hurdles, it's likely for the Big Ten. Much in the same way, Robbins doesn't want to be held responsible if the Pac-12 dissolves or gets reduced to an unrecognizable form. The Big Ten presidents also don't want to look predatory. As we said at Peek Around the Corner, when Kevin Warren left the commissioner's office, we reported to you all that was the number one hurdle for Big Ten further expansion in the near future. That hurdle is now gone. There wasn't going to be any Big Ten expansion with Kevin Warren in the near future. Fox Sports didn't want to have to deal with it. Amazon didn't want to have to deal with it if they have to come in. And Big Ten presidents did not want to have to deal with Kevin Warren. But the next big hurdle was the legal hurdle. And that is being chopped down as we speak because of what's going on with the Big 12 cracking open the Pac-12 once again. New Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti also doesn't aspire to look like the saboteur. But he's done some quiet diligence about the potential of Washington and Oregon as the Pac-12's vulnerability has made it obvious they could shake loose. Any addition of Washington and Oregon would counter the wishes of USC, which viewed the competitive advantage of keeping schools like Oregon out of the Los Angeles recruiting market as the essential part of its Big Ten move. Inviting them would negate that advantage. The idea of a West Coast expansion is intriguing to UCLA, but they'd have to thread a political needle after Cal got left behind in the last expansion. As always, realignment is complicated. There is a prevailing feeling Washington and Oregon could end up available for a cut rate. As we've been talking about it, Peek Around the Corner. And no, we just did not begin to talk about this. We've talked about it since the opening of this channel because we knew that the interest from Big Ten presidents, especially Fox Sports, with Washington and Oregon was far beyond Kevin Warren, even though a lot of people reported it differently. There's a prevailing feeling Washington and Oregon could end up available for a cut rate. The Big Ten schools are projected to make in the neighborhood of $7 million in television money once the full deal kicks in. For the Big Ten to move on Oregon and Washington, the league would need to bring in a fourth television partner. And we said that on the live show last night. Amazon. Friday night. Kevin Warren, former Commissioner Kevin Warren, was unable to land it when the Big Ten flirted with the idea in the wake of USC and UCLA acquisition. The league's president and athletic directors were ultimately cool on further expansion as well. Part of that had to do with the quality of games that would be available to whoever that fourth television partner would be, as it would be expected to secure any of the Big Ten's top 50 contests. Could things change if the price is cut and Oregon and Washington aren't brought in at full share? Could a TV partner kick in some prime games as a sweetener to lure a fourth partner? That's all to be determined, but it isn't something that could come together quickly. So this saga is going to continue on. Where's the ACC in all of this? The ACC has been doing due diligence out west the same way the Big Ten has. The geography and finances of any potential union, they are muddled as it remains the prevailing thought that bringing in a handful of high-profile West Coast schools would not bring in game-changing income to the ACC. As the ACC explores and ponders from a distance, it's still dealing with the internal realities of something happening in its own league. The unhappy cohort of 7 schools that have been chatting among themselves: Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, hasn't suddenly found happiness or a viable way to dramatically increase the ACC's finances. But they are still bound together by the league's restrictive grant of rights, which goes through 2036. Florida State has long been the unhappiest of the unhappy ACC schools. If FSU, Clemson, or Miami, or any other aggrieved ACC schools wants to, in theory, duck out for the 2024 school year, they have to notify the league by writing on August 15th. Pete Thamel is writing this. ESPN, the great Pete Thamel. He's discussing it. He might not think it's going to happen, but he's at least discussing it. Why? Because as we reported to you yesterday, Act 1 has begun. The smoke, at least the smoke, is very real. Stick with us here. That's a short time to find a home. August 15th for Florida State, as that notice would hypothetically give them a chance to play in a new league for 2024, but no one knows what the league could be, which is perhaps the biggest issue. If you leave, where do you go? That was my question last night. You have to have it locked up before you send that withdrawal notice in. And will you win the legal battle to own your own rights? The SEC has been devout about staying put at 16 teams in the short term, and no league wants to or can legally afford exposure taking a team before it entangles itself from prior conference situation. I'm going to repeat that. No league wants or can legally afford the exposure of taking a team before it untangles itself from its prior conference situation. The only thing certain about the ACC is that any defections would create a flurry of lawsuits because the grant of rights tied to the television contract runs more than a decade. There's always been well, doing so in the next 2 weeks feels sudden, but nothing is impossible in realignment. I know that was a long talk, but that just came out. Thank you for the super chat, Cameron B. Why would Indiana, Purdue, and others agree to expand, dropping their linear football opportunities and chances at making the college football playoff? It makes no sense. Thank you for your generosity to the channel, Cameron B. I will say this, and I said it before. The Big Ten, they want to go east again, and they will. They will be successful going somewhere at some point, sometime to expand in the East. To do so, they need to expand out west again. That's why. That is why, Cameron B. They're not going to have a 20-team conference or a 24-team conference with only 2 schools west of Lincoln, Nebraska, no matter what USC wants or believes they should have. And I've been arguing this from day one. The Buckeyes, the Nittany Lions, the Wolverines don't want USC and UCLA to have that huge garden of recruiting base all across the Pacific coast and the West, all to themselves. They would want them to battle it out with a Oregon and a Washington. That is why. Every Big Ten presidents, Purdue, everybody wants to go to the southeast, to the east, to take at least a couple schools. And to do so, they need to go west again. And Washington and Oregon have always been the two big candidates. That is why. Now, let me get to, I know we got a lot of comments, a lot of people in the chat. I appreciate it. This monologue has already run a little long, but we still got a lot to get to here. Let's break this down. Pac-12 meeting. Let's go back to the Pac-12 here. Let's talk about the Pac-12. They have a meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow is it. George Kliavkoff has to lay it on the line. Whatever he has, real numbers, he finally has to show them. And yes, the Pac-12 presidents haven't really seen real numbers, but they're going to see them tomorrow. Jason Scheer, to add to my previous tweet, sources indicate to Wildcat Authority the Pac-12 will hold a meeting tomorrow. Numbers will be presented, but there is pessimism within the conference. This could be George Kliavkoff's last stand in keeping the conference together. To add to my previous tweet, there is absolutely no confidence in a deal, and nobody knows where the linear aspect is coming from. If George Kliavkoff pulls this off since Thursday, it will be a small miracle. I'll throw a few more chips in the table. It would be a massive miracle for George Kliavkoff to pull this off. Because as we've said, weeks, months after month, there is no deal to be made that can get those 10 presidents to sign on the dotted line. Now we're down to 9 presidents. None that anybody could come up with. The negativity from the national media is because there was negativity behind the curtain. There was no deal that George Kliavkoff could present to keep the Pac-12 presidents, to have them sign on the dotted line when it comes to the media package, to the grant of rights. Jason Scheer. Sources indicate that there is very little linear aspect to the deal that will be presented tomorrow. Nobody knows where it's coming from. But there's also speculation Kliavkoff could present escalators of sorts if certain ratings numbers are hit. And that is what our Arizona State Money Perch told us at Peek Around the Corner a couple months ago. Whatever deal comes out of this, Arizona State's expectation, what he was told, that it would be a deal that would be difficult to decipher. It would be a deal difficult to figure out exactly how much money they would make in revenue, because you would have escalators, you would have subscriptions. And then this came from Jason Scheer, 247 Sports, just part of the article that he broke after he put out those tweets. The expectation within the conference is that it would be a major surprise if anything worth signing was presented. It is also expected that the deal would be a heavy streaming, or even possibly completely streaming with Apple and the ability to license with ESPN for some games. The number is expected to be as low as $20 million per school, with the belief that Kliavkoff will also present a possibility for more money based on certain aspects like ratings and ESPN payment. It is unlikely a deal would be good enough for the conference to agree on, and that he will likely lead to more discussions amongst certain schools and other conferences, not other conference. More than one. Conferences. Then we got word. Arizona meeting. Pops up out of nowhere. Special board meeting. tomorrow. Okay? That pops up. Then the agenda pops up. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to leave it up on the screen for a while. It's a notice of the public meeting, notice of special board meeting and executive session of the Arizona Board of Regents. This is scheduled after the PAC-12 meeting finishes. I'm going to leave it up on the screen so when you go back and watch this episode, this live show, you can read that whole thing. But there it is. Now, this notice of public meeting, the posting of the meeting, went absolutely viral. When I posted these, this first screen, it went crazy, and then this one as well. And Jason Scheer put up a tweet and basically said, "I remember when he's speaking for himself. I remember when he used to, when I would get criticized for posting a public meeting. Suddenly, it's the cool thing to do." I thought that was pretty interesting tweet by Jason Scheer. He's absolutely correct. And then CBS Sports college football reporter Sheehan, the Arizona Board of Regents have scheduled an impromptu meeting for tomorrow, which is expected to be after the Pac-12. One interesting wrinkle: the Arizona Board of Regents oversees both the University of Arizona and Arizona State. So, so there it is. The numbers, the meeting tomorrow, they're going to see the numbers, really real numbers that they could look at, and if they agree upon, they could hash it out and make this happen. But according to everybody we've talked to here, peek around the corner, it ain't going to fly. It's not close. And we reported to you all for many, many months. Arizona State Money Perch first told us January 31st, the Arizona schools are not going to go for a heavy streaming deal. President Robbins of Arizona said that in public. Arizona State has told that us in private. They're not going to do it. A heavy streaming media package is probably going to work in 2028, 2030, 2032. It ain't going to work right now. It just isn't. Or at least it's too dangerous. It's too risky. Plus, you're not getting that much money in this deal anyways. As we reported to you all, a one region Pacific Coast Conference, that networks have said no. They don't want it. Those great Pac-12 universities are more valuable going to other conferences. National conferences, you get more bandwidth, you bring in more value, for more flexibility, more value for your media partners. That's where everything's going to, Big 12, Big 10, except for the SEC, because they don't need to do so. Now, we're going to quickly hit the ACC. When I read Pete Thamel's article there, he's not a big believer that a conference could pick up a school, a team like a Florida State without untangling themselves first from the grant of rights that exist in the conference that they're already in. And he's probably right. He's most likely correct. Big Ten probably won't touch Florida State. SEC probably won't touch Florida State. But we're going to continue to talk about this because a lot of people disagree with Pete Thamel. First of all, Bob Thompson said today, the grant of rights is between the school and the conference, not the school and the network. The conference represents to the network that it can fulfill the rights agreement obligations. If the ACC school leaves, those home games still belong to the ACC. Okay? it belongs to the conference. No, I know we had a lot of, a lot of people believe that ESPN now owns the grant of rights. They own each individual school's media rights. I've always assumed, because that's how it's always been, that the conference owns each school's media rights, and that the network owns the distribution license to distribute the content of the conference. So there's still a disagreement. Bob Thompson, former president of Fox Sports. Now, if you do believe that the grant of rights is owned by the conference, here's the ACC bylaws. Just the withdrawal of members. Excuse me. To withdraw from the conference, a member must file an official notice of withdrawal with each of the members of the commissioner on or before August 15th for the withdrawal to be effective of June 30th of the following year. Upon official notice of withdrawal, the member will be subject to withdrawal payment as liquidated damages in an amount equal to 3 times the total operating budget of the conference. Approved in accordance with Section 251 of the bylaws of the conference may offset the amount of such payment against any distributions otherwise due such member for any conference year. Any remaining amount due shall be paid for the withdrawing member within 30 days after the effective date of withdrawal. The withdrawing member shall have no claim on the assets, amounts, or income of the conference. We're not going to dive too deep into that tonight because we have this breaking news of the Pac-12 and tomorrow. But if you want to call in and talk about it once again, we're going to do it. It's going to be a long, dramatic story, the ACC. A lot of people believe that Florida State is going to announce their withdrawal from the ACC conference on August 15th. It would be an incredible, risky play. But again, I understand it would be incredibly risky for them to remain in the conference for the next 13 years as well. So we'll see how it plays out. We're looking at that August 15th date. We can tell you the smoke is real. I did an episode early today. If you haven't seen it, go take a look. Episode 283. I gave you my take. PATC's best shot on is the rumor true? Washington and Oregon, Florida State, and Clemson being announced they're going to be Big Ten members this week. We went through it all in the episode. I'm not going to go through the live show. And the end result is we believe that rumor will not be accurate. We pointed out Clemson. We've been poking around because we've been poking around in this Florida State situation. How serious are they in withdrawing from the conference August 15th? We believe that Clemson is nowhere near where Florida State is in the process of potentially pulling the trigger. So that part of the rumor doesn't seem true with us at all. And when it comes to Washington and Oregon, of course, we believe either now or 5 years from now, Washington and Oregon would become members of the Big Ten. We've been consistent, strong, no flip-flopping. We've told you that. We've told no lies to you. However, I cannot see the possibility of that happening within this week. I don't see it. Now, I understand. Washington and Oregon, they had preliminary meetings. They're clear and vetted. Also, we can tell you here at Peek Around the Corner, Ducks and Husky fans, listen up. There has been increased communication with Washington and Oregon to the Big Ten, at least beginning the Wednesday before the Colorado announcement on Thursday. We know this. It's confirmed by a couple different angles to the story. So we know there's been increased chatter. This is absolutely, without question, what's going on. Does that mean they can push it over the finish line? Does that mean they can get a fourth media partner to pay the freight? Does that mean they can get all the Big Ten presidents to sign on? We shall see. But the interest is there. And I'm going to end the monologue giving you just a little bit of intel that I can't go into the details of it, but just going to give it to you. One of the difficulties that Amazon had in getting the media deal, getting part of the Big Ten media deal, was with somebody in leadership throughout the Big Ten. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say the position of the person. Amazon kind of ran into a roadblock in somebody in leadership throughout the Big Ten, an important voice. And Amazon got very upset with Kevin Warren. Well, Kevin Warren is no longer there, and that roadblock that Amazon hit within the Big Ten, that person is no longer there either. So, we'll see. A lot of hurdles for Washington and Oregon to be added to the Big Ten Conference. A lot of them have gone away. And now the Pac-12 is about to collapse. Oregon and Washington would come in at a discount rate. Cost-benefit analysis that the Big Ten has been looking at. And not only I've been saying that, but the Illinois Chancellor said that in public. They've been looking at it. Cost-benefit analysis. Expand now or wait 5 years from now. And that has to do with Oregon and Washington. Vetted and cleared. Let's get to your comments. Let's get to your phone calls. Everybody is sick and tired of listening to me talk. Let's get to you guys. Wow, there's so many comments. Throw the towel. Arizona Board of Regents, both Arizona schools, but both schools do not have to act in tandem. That is absolutely correct. Jason Shears said it was $22 million. Okay. Arizona State, Arizona, Bunny Perch on speed dial. Head on a swivel. The cloak has been lost. Only daggers from here on in. Mountaineer Steve, Greg, important. I read the 2013 grant of rights. It is owned by the ACC. The ACC did not sign a new grant of rights. They just signed a one-page amendment extending the original GOR. Look, very smart people on both sides. One believes ESPN owns each school's media rights, and the other side believes the ACC owns them. I'm on the ACC side until I see some sort of document, something official that says ESPN owns Wake Forest's media rights. ESPN owns North Carolina's media rights. Until I see that, I'm going to go with the ACC side. But I am open to be persuaded. So give me a call, your comments, show me some documents, some articles. It's reported that the deal was $200 million, but that was before Colorado left. It has to come down a little bit after that. We got that, Mark. Thank you so much. Arizona has scheduled an emergency board meeting tomorrow. We did post that earlier today. There it is. Special board meeting. And there is the notice of public meeting. Somewhat of an agenda there. I'm not going to go through it. No Trojan voting until 2024. I don't know how many times I don't know how else I could have said this over the last so many months, over a year now. The Big Ten, whenever it happens, it's going to happen. It's not going to be just USC and UCLA west of Lincoln, Nebraska. That's just not how it's going to end up. It just isn't going to happen. And I got crushed for it all over the place. Well, I also got crushed all over the place when we said USC was leaving for the Big Ten. We also got crushed all over the place when we talked about Colorado being in the center of the stage since February 24th. The odds favor that the Big 12 is going to poach the Pac-12. I'm just letting you know there's interest in Oregon and Washington. There's Fox Sports interest in Oregon and Washington. If you get Oregon and Washington under the Fox Sports umbrella, that means Fox has the West, the big brands on the West Coast. The Big Ten Network would sell like hotcakes in Washington and Oregon. And then it's going to the East eventually for the Big Ten. The Rebel Outpost, no question about it. No question about it. Greg, are you going live tomorrow? Hopefully we'll go live tomorrow. Hopefully. I can't tell you when. Let's get to your phone calls. Again, if you're new to the show, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. If you want to donate to the channel, make sure your comment gets posted and talked about. Hit that $sign. Put on the donation. We'll get to it as soon as we can. The phone number is 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Here, peek around the corner. Drama is everywhere. There's so much to talk about.
Call from
Bobby.
This might be Bobby Robbins, University of Arizona president. The floor is yours, sir.
How's my favorite gopher?
Am I your only gopher? That's the question.
That's a good question. No, I don't think you are.
Okay,
but,
all right. Then it's good. Then it's very good.
The Godfather.
Yes, thank you.
Well, gosh, I got thoughts on all kinds of things.
Yes.
The ACC thing is interesting to me just from a historical standpoint because of what happened at the SEC meetings with the group of seven, which you know very well, you've talked about.
Yeah.
And I have followed realignment since Nebraska joined the conference. I've got no inside information. I've just been a junkie about it. It's one of my bad habits.
Yeah.
And people don't know how much, when the Big Ten has done things in realignment, it has been reactionary. Not always, but for the most part. When they took Rutgers in Maryland, they did it as a reaction because if you go back to that year, the Big Ten almost had a deal with the PAC to play them in football and basketball and all their sports. And all of a sudden that deal ended and the ACC simultaneously took Big East schools, and the Big Ten was looking to get shut out of both coasts, West Coast and East Coast, and the response was they took Rutgers in Maryland.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Nervous about Penn State. Yep.
And then what happened? Where did they take USC and UCLA? Reaction because of Oklahoma and Texas. Well, if you're the Big Ten and you heard about the group of seven, and the rumor was that they were all meeting so they could go to the SEC together. What would you do? You'd move up the calendar and do something like this.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going on Big Ten history here, which you know very well.
Yep.
This is the kind of thing that the Big Ten would do as a reaction. If they felt threatened, if they thought something was happening that they would get shut out of a geographic location that they wanted to move into, in particular Florida. This is the kind of thing that I'm just saying this might be a reason why all of a sudden, your timelines moved up drastically. Where you thought something was going to happen January and all of a sudden it's happening August.
And let's go down the rabbit hole just a little bit. You don't have to go all the way in, but then your theory would be that the Big Ten would take care of a Florida State, right? Would give them $50 million.
I think they would somehow, without being accused of collusion, pay the freight.
Okay. All right.
Or help with the freight greatly.
Yes.
And people don't know the Big Ten's got a war chest, because when the Big Ten distribution happens, it's not to 14 or 16 teams, it's to 15 or 17. There's a equal amount that goes to the Big Ten, and they build that up. So they have a war chest for things like this.
Oh, they do have a war chest.
Very much a big one.
Yes. Wait. I mean, first of all, I'm sorry. I'll give you your time back. Big Ten has a huge war chest. They get a slice. The Big Ten Conference gets a slice of all these media deals. People don't realize that. The conference itself, even the Big Ten Network, the revenue comes in. Each Big Ten school gets about $8 or $9 million clear from the Big Ten Network. We're not talking the other third tier type of deals you have within your athletic department. I'm talking about the Big Ten Network creates $8 to $9 million per year for each Big Ten school cleared. They make $8 or $9 million. The Big Ten gets that $8 or $9 million. They get a check.
Equal.
Huh?
Equal.
Yes. So they getting that every single year. So yes, the Big Ten has a war chest. I want to thank you, Bill. I'll get back in a second. Bill G, thanks for the update. Godfather, thank you so much, Bill G, for your super chat. I'm seeing some comments in the chat room. I know there's a report out there that the Utah has not been taking Big 12 phone calls. I can tell you from the PATC, you can take it however you want it. That report is absolutely false. Absolutely 100% false. I don't remember who reported it, but you can take what I just said however you want it. But from our standpoint, from everything we know, Utah's definitely been taking the Big 12 phone calls. There is no animosity between Utah and the Big 12. None whatsoever. So, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How could you not take a phone call in this current situation? You need to talk to everybody you can.
Yeah.
And I also, and I think we're on the same page. I've told you this before. The Big Ten, if Washington and Oregon are available, this is the second time. They looked at them hard last year. This is the second time. You only get so many bites at the apple.
Yeah.
What is the Pac-10? Why is it having problems right now? It had opportunities. People have gone through what those opportunities were, and they didn't take advantage of them. And if you're the Big Ten, you say no enough, and it comes back to bite you. It does. If the Big 12 ends up with Washington and Oregon, here's my other conspiracy theory for the day. Greg.
Go ahead.
If the Big Ten ends up with Washington and Oregon, what was the beginning of Act 13? It was that the Big 12 was starting to look at basketball-only schools.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's a football school that likes to have its basketball and Olympic sports separate from its football. That's having a media deal right now. Maybe having some problems with it. If it could join a conference that also has two other religious schools with it, do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
That would, and the Big 12 would make all kind of promises, say we'll make you whole and you can keep independence and all this stuff. If you're there, you said he's going for home runs.
Yeah. And why not? Yep.
And why not? And if you're the Big Ten, if you don't take Washington and Oregon, I know the Mullen Vision likes to say no expansion without Notre Dame. I don't know. You have to be careful. Sometimes you don't get Notre Dame without expansion first.
Yeah. No,
I'm not saying this will happen, but this is exactly how Yormark thinks. And he will take a swing at Notre Dame if he can get Oregon into his conference. I guarantee you he will.
Like I said,
and Notre Dame and Oregon in the same conference would be that. Then you'd be looking at three partners at the conference playoff table rather than two.
Yeah, and like I said before, Big 12, you need to keep Brett Yormark happy. Big 10, you need to keep Fox Sports happy, and Fox wants Oregon and Washington. So,
yeah, now on the other hand, I do think Fox is controlling this to some degree. How many times have you heard Yormark or the Big 12 saying 14 or 16. Now, why are they saying that? Well, she's going to stop at 14, maybe 16, but we're just, you know why they're saying that, Greg, because Fox is telling them, we'll pay for this, maybe pay. In other words, Fox is vetting which schools they'll allow the Big 12 to take.
Yes.
I am convinced of that. And ESPN signing that deal saying they will automatically pay for whatever team, Power 5 teams, the Big 12 takes, has to be ruining the day they signed that, because they basically gave Fox the vetting power over everything. Fox has total control of this.
That's a interesting angle. I've never heard that before. But yes, I think you're on to something, or you're on something, one or the other.
Well, and usually both. But but no, Fox really. And so if like you say, the Big Ten says no to Washington and Oregon, and Fox values them, and they're frustrated with the Big Ten, they may okay them to the Big 12. And once they, like I say, and then Yormark will take a swing at Notre Dame. I guarantee he will. Like I say, I don't know that they'll get him, but he'll take a swing at him.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You talk about stability. He's going for stability for this conference. And Notre Dame and Oregon, 2 top 10 programs would provide that. Top 10 fan base programs would provide that. And like I say, that's why I say, if I'm the Big Ten, you only get so many opportunities. You only get so many bites at the apple.
Yeah.
This is the same stuff that has come back to bite the Pac-10 badly.
Yes. Yeah.
Badly.
Great call, Bobby. Great call.
You got to take the opportunities when they're there. They don't come around always again. And you also have to take people who want to come to you when they want to come to you. It's not always convenient.
Yeah. You got it. Beautiful.
Those are my 2 little conspiracy theories.
Well,
one, the history on the AC, why the ACC thing might be happening now. I could see the Big Ten stirring that pot because of other things. They tend to react to things like this pretty strongly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Bobby, please call again. Fantastic call.
I've tried before. It's you're blessed. This whole thing, I'm so happy for you, Greg. This is like the best ratings thing you could ever wish for.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Yep.
Great
Bye now.
call. Wow. Wow. Fantastic call. Fantastic call. The lines are now open again.
Call from
Lewis,
the legend. Lewis, what's going on, sir? What is happening?
Greg.
What is going on?
Well, we're finally getting to the end of the story. It's taken a long time, but we're here. We're at the end. So I'm very happy about that, no matter which way it goes. But I disagree with your prior caller on one thing. Well, I do not believe that Oregon and Washington will end up in the Big 12, and there's even reporting in Bammel's article that's not going to happen. I don't think that if you don't add them now, they're not available in a few years. If they should hypothetically go to the Big 12, they would then leave when that grant of rights is over. So I don't think you have to do it now. I just look at the Big 10. It has complex constituencies, and you have schools in the middle. The Purdue's, the Indianas, the Illinois, those schools will end up potentially on the streaming or the 4th carrier if they have to add more schools.
Yeah.
And I think they've been against it. And so you have to somehow get them to buy into this. And you're also splitting your playoff money 18 ways instead of 16, or maybe 17 instead of 16 if you take a half share. So it just seems like there's been so much complication with
I'm sorry, president. Lewis, I'm going to...
Yes.
In this new playoff contract, in the old one, and this is the last year of the old contract, the 4-team one.
Well, 2 more years. Yeah.
This is the last year. 2024, we go to expanded playoffs. Okay.
It's a playoff, but it's still under the old system, if you will. Then 2 years after that, it's when it starts over with the gold rush. But yeah.
But what I'm saying is, for 2024, 2025, the playoff money. Okay, here in the current playoff contract, each Power 5 conference would get an allotted amount of money. Flat fee. I think it was in this high $70 million. And then that would get split among the schools in the conference. Okay? So more members in your conference, your slice of that revenue pie was smaller. However, because SEC and the Big Ten pushed their weight around, knowing that they're going to expand their conference, they already expanded their conference, they're going to expand it more probably in the new contract. The new contract starting in 2024, each Power 5 program gets the same amount of playoff revenue, that flat fee that comes in, and then you're going to get more based upon performance if you make the playoffs and all that stuff. So adding more schools to your conference does not dilute the revenue slice of the playoff money going forward, starting next year. I just wanted to put that.
Well, with the basketball, it still has
okay.
Either way.
No,
the point is,
right.
The point is, there's a complicated constituency that you have to work through. Now, I look at Oregon and Washington. First of all, the Pac-12 deal, jumping back on that, just based upon reports, it appears to be an Apple TV deal with potential sub-licensing of a game or two to potentially ESPN or to a linear partner. Oregon and Washington are going to get all those games to end up on linear. If you're sitting there at Cal or at Arizona or Arizona State, you're probably not going to be on linear all year. You're just going to be in streaming. I can't imagine what a disaster that would be for basketball to be on Apple TV. But nobody's going to subscribe to it unless you're a real diehard Pac-12 fan. And so that's going to be the case. And even if they can get the money up to around $23-24 million by giving a lesser share to the new teams and ways, I just don't believe it's going to be enough. But with that said, Oregon and Washington have three choices. The first is the Big Ten, if the Big Ten comes through. And if not, then their choices are to take it on the chin in the Pac-12, potentially throw their weight around, use the Big 12 interest as leverage to get a better share, and even better share than what they might get, and they stay in for 2 or 3 years. It's a short-term deal or a short-term grant of rights. That might be what they do, even if they're going to suffer exposure, potentially, or they go to the Big 12. I don't think they come to the Big 12, and I also don't know if the Big 10 operates, so they might very well stay in the Pac-12, but only if they're getting the sweetest of deals, which would mean they're getting the first crack of any limited linear that's there, and they're getting a better revenue share even than the schools that stay in. And so with that, I believe Arizona is going to leave the conference on this heavy streaming deal. The president has said that. So if it ends up being the case, heavy streaming, he said that's not going to work. And then the other interesting thing Pete Thamel talked about is the group of three situation. So I suppose the question would be, if a Big 12 does not want to take Arizona State and Utah, then does Robbins fall on the sword and stay with the three and stay in the Pac-12 and go on to streaming for the next few years, or does he go on his own? And the backup plan for the Big 12 would be to take Connecticut. If they can't get anybody else from the Pac-12, they would go to Connecticut. So we will see. It's going to be interesting to play out, but it certainly seems that Arizona will go. This deal's not going to placate them.
Yeah.
It's really not a good deal. And I also don't know then if teams start to leave, how you have to get 12 teams potentially to make a streaming deal work, because, and this goes back to something way back in February when Kliavkoff started visiting SMU, was they need a lot of teams for Apple to have content for more subscribers. Well, I don't know how if you're down to 6 teams or even 8 teams, you got to add teams. They have to pay hefty buyouts to get there. And I don't know where that money's coming from. So a lot of questions, but within the next day or two, this is going to get out. We'll know where it is. I believe it's an absolute Hail Mary. Even if cash is thrown in by the TV provider, by Apple, on top of the $20 million a year or $22 million a year, it may not be enough. We'll get to a result on it. I'll be glad when it is over. The worst case scenario for the Big 12, they have Colorado and UConn. The best case scenario, it's Arizona is added as well as Oregon and Washington. And somewhere in the middle is you just add Arizona and Colorado, which would be good. Or you do get all 4 corner schools and they all come. But overall, we're glad to get this over with so we can move on to the ACC. But Greg, that ACC deal, that's going to take time because you have too many victims. if
Yeah.
FSU's allowed to leave. You don't think the Boston College and Syracuse and Pitt and Louisville, they're not going to sue? You're going to end up in court if they actually can pull the rug out. It's not going to be that easy. It's going to be complicated. I'm not saying it can't be done because, in a way, the ACC is on death row as a conference. They're on death row. We know they're going to die. We just don't know if it's going to be all the way out to 2036 at the very end of this or sometime sooner. But it's inevitable that the best brands are gone. And so that reality, once that sinks in, they might be able to negotiate a deal and get some money before you reach the end of the whole thing. So it's going to take a while. With that, I know you got a lot of calls. Great show as always, and have a great evening, Greg.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lewis. Awesome. Yes. Yes. All right, phone line 763.
Call from
Bread and Circus.
Okay, here we go, Western Civic. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, really interesting information from Amazon you just doled out there.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone was listening at that point because the monologue went so long. So thanks for listening to that part.
No, I thought that was really important. And, that's, what do I say? Look, people need to understand, if you don't understand this already, how important sports are for sort of societal management, if you will. Okay? And they have an objective. And that objective is to get us all logging in to watch football. And look, I loved your last caller's, obvious concern about the concept and how annoying it is for us as fans to have to do something like that. And we want to watch football in large groups, a lot of times. So, look, I hope that they are unsuccessful. I mean, Amazon is, has more money than they're pretty powerful, Amazon, yeah?
Yes.
But, if we don't comply, if we don't do what these guys want us to do, then hopefully we'll be okay. Greg,
Yes.
What do you think of that Instagram post now?
Well, it wasn't about realignment.
Oh no, he's still sticking with that. All right. We'll see.
I mean, look, and I've been consistent about this from day one. Oregon and Washington will become Big Ten members sooner or later, in a couple months or 5 years from now. But it was going to take more of the Big 12 cracking open the Pac-12. They weren't going to. The Big Ten wasn't going to go grab Oregon and Washington. And what have we seen? The Big 12 cracked open the Pac-12, and they're about to do it again. So when they do it again, listen, everybody in the chat room, Western Civic, if Arizona leaves here in the next couple days to the Big 12, all eyes. I know we still have the big story with Arizona State and Utah, but all eyes should be on the Big Ten in Washington and Oregon once Arizona leaves. I said from the beginning it wasn't going to be just Colorado. That wasn't going to be enough, but if Arizona does it, then Katie bar the door, things are going to happen, and we're about to see it happen. Go ahead, Western Civic.
Yeah, I think that's right. But remember, and this is just more evidence, Greg, that really I think most of this is done. And like I say, the Magnificent Seven are the SEC Seven. And this is going to, I think, I may be wrong, but I think this thing is going to move a lot faster than people have anticipated. So we'll see. Gosh, I don't know what, I'm getting old, Greg.
No, I do the same thing over and over again. I lose my train of thought. I'm writing notes down so I know what to say the next time.
No, I usually do. I'm more prepared usually. But so anyway, I did get a piece of news today from another source.
I got breaking news.
Okay, go ahead.
Breaking news.
Okay, come back to me though, but yeah.
Yeah. And I saw it in the chat. Brett McMurphy 4 minutes ago with the eye emoji, with the big two bright eyes. And you know what Brett McMurphy has said in the past about certain situations in regards to Oregon and Washington. That's all I'm going to say. He's got big eye emojis. He's not saying anything else. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't know what he means by that, but it's something big. Go ahead, Western Civic.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember what I was going to say now. Now, this whole business, Greg, and Moan Vision, whoever might want to disagree with me, but I think this idea that the PAC has to crack first, and this notion that it will be the tort of interference with the PAC if we don't break it open first, and the big presidents, there's going to be legal liability. I don't buy any of that from a legal perspective at all. I've always said I think that's a smokescreen. And I think what we're seeing is we're trying to make the relegation of Colorado and Arizona more palatable. And then once that's done, then all this other stuff can move. And so let me just give you the one little tidbit. It's not all that exciting because it's nothing you wouldn't expect, but I had a contact from as high up in Utah state government as you can find today. Without mentioning it's not the governor, but almost might as well be. He anyway informs me that, and this is not news, that Utah's had a standing invitation. So I don't know if this is good news or bad news, because Utah's had a standing invitation from the Big 12 for a while, and that Utah does not intend to accept it. And that isn't from my prompting. That's it. But there's just two things. Now, the second part to me is really good news. But the first part, that there's been an invitation, scares the bejesus out of me, Godfather. Is this an invitation we'll be allowed to decline?
Utah's not going to decline it.
Oh, God! Don't say such a thing. Good Lord. Permanent relegation. I say it ain't so. But anyway, apparently the invitation's been there for a long time. So this isn't news.
Okay.
But then also, Greg.
Yeah, I got a lot to get to, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you go. But look, I think it's like I say. I think. Oh, the other thing I thought was informative: property rights and who owns what rights.
Sure.
Look, I'm not an expert on those type of contracts.
Sure.
But it's a property right, right? If the ACC gets these rights from the schools, they can then assign that property right to somewhere else. So they could have given it to ESPN in a subcontract kind of form. So that could have happened. I don't know, but it's much easier for the Magnificent Seven to go to the SEC, as your Florida State caller from yesterday described very well. So anyway, hey, I'm not logging in to watch football. And someday it'll be proven that annual playoff flexibility will be the key.
Beautiful.
And for God's sake, Greg, no war.
No war. No more war. Thank you, Western Civic. Okay, so Becky Salisbury, Miss Washington Husky, sent me a DM. Now, of course, we don't know for sure, right? We're just speculating. It's okay. I think we can call it an educated speculation. Dave Softy Mahler, who had listening back to our convo with Brett McMurphy on 518 regarding Washington, Oregon to the Big Ten.
Call from
Crab Cakes and Football.
Crab Cakes and Football. Can you hold just a moment?
I can.
Thank you so much. This is Dave Softy Mahler from somewhere out there in Washington, Seattle, I believe. Listening back to our convo with Brett McMurphy on 518 regarding Washington and Oregon to the Big Ten. Quote, this is McMurphy, Brett McMurphy. I don't think it's if, it's when. I do think it's going to happen. The Big Ten does not want to have the Pac-12's blood on its hands. They will not take Oregon and Washington if the conference remained at 10 schools. If some of the schools leave the Pac-12 to go to the Big 12 on their own and the conference is suddenly losing members, then you could see the Big Ten come in and say the conference is basically done, destroyed, disintegrating, and we can go get Washington, Oregon. And peek around the corner, been reporting the same thing for months and months and months. And the same exact people who told us we were wrong about Colorado was telling us we were wrong about Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten. Go ahead, Crab Cakes. Football, Mr. Terrapin, the floor is yours.
All right, first off, I'm on the back road, so I might lose you, so I'll try to make this fast. Florida State has always been rumored possibly to go to the Big Ten. I kind of like that rumor because Florida already has that Florida market. The Clemson thing, I don't believe that in a second. I do live in South Carolina. No one down there thinks they're going to go to the Big Ten. And then as for Arizona, if they don't get the number they're looking for tomorrow, I expect them to pull the plug. Utah being in conversations or bidding war with the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't believe that for a second because I just don't find them that valuable. Oregon and Washington, I think, goes on the heels of an announcement of either Miami or FSU. So that I hope that made sense because the Oregon does bring a lot, but I don't think it brings the eyeballs of a big city like Washington and Miami would be.
Yeah.
So and plus the blood on the hands thing, the Big Ten does not want that, but at the same time, I think now everybody is starting to consolidate, and I think somebody is going to pay for somebody to get out of the ACC. I'm not saying it's the Big Ten, I'm saying it's the SEC, but somebody's going to go and give the loan, get paid back a little bit at a time, and just make it happen. That way they can move first and just crack the whole entire floodgates open. That's pretty much all I had to say.
Beautiful call. Thank you so much. Please call again, Crab Cakes and Football. Thank you so very much.
12-0 Terps.
Got it.
All
Go Terps. Except when they play the Gophers.
All right, man. Later.
Yeah. Thank you. Son of Sarek, does the Big Ten stop at just Oregon and Washington, or do they add Stanford, California, or Utah is the question? You know, the school I would have in front of Stanford and California is Utah. I don't think I don't want to start something. We've got enough on our plate, but
Call from
Rebecca, go Huskies.
Rebecca, Miss Washington Huskies. I think she's starting to see the future. What do you think? What's going on? What's the word out there?
So the word out here, sorry, pardon my voice, I was playing softball. No, the word out here is Big 12 is not really, nobody wants the Big 12. Shoot for the stars or just, hang out and wait a little while. It's really feeling like the Big Ten is probably going to be happening if the Pac-12 dies.
Yeah.
So kind of where everybody's hoping, and it may not be with Oregon. That's the other thing that kind of popped up out here. A little rumor that people are saying is that it may not be with Oregon.
I think it will be. I think it will be because I think that is what Fox Sports wants in this deal.
Yeah.
They're going to get something, and they want Oregon. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I think what people need to realize is, the Big Ten may have to be a little more reactive than they have in the past. They need to be more proactive than they have in the past, where they've been a little more reactive. ESPN also wants Oregon and Washington. They do. And if the Pac-12 did die, you can't just leave two schools out there just floating.
Yeah.
Especially if ESPN wants to prevent them from really being on Fox. You can't, and there's, like I said, I've said it a million times, there's one conference that doesn't want to go past their geographical boundaries. However, it's free. It wouldn't cost them a lot. And, Washington and Oregon, they'd still be playing late at night, and that conference would basically have 12 hours of football all the time.
Yeah.
Especially in the non-conference slate. I don't think it would happen, but this is why everybody's starting to this is a little rumor that people have said, is that that's why the Big Ten may call if Pac-12 dies, because they don't want to let that conference be able to do what they're doing. They're trying to lock them out of the West Coast now.
Yeah.
Really only two brands, unfortunately, that would fit them, and culturally they don't fit, but it would just be more like, we want to get there, we want to take a little bit of your viewership, your time slot viewership from USC and UCLA, and really just kind of.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Thamel, he did put in that article. We read it at the top of the show. There was also another option for Washington and Oregon that he mentioned in that article, and he talked about independent. Although it'd be a huge struggle, it'd be a huge struggle to schedule games. To find the media money, that would be enough. But he did mention that, just to point that out.
Yeah. It would be a huge struggle because, like, when BYU did it, it was like in BYU, I think their administrators would say the hardest thing is finding 12 opponents. You have to find 12 opponents. You're not guaranteed 9 or 8 or who, you got to find 12 opponents. If you're not playing in a conference title game, you're losing a data point. You're not in a conference, so automatic. You have to get a power conference to be on your side, like Notre Dame did, in order to get access to the playoffs. You're just going to have to either be really highly ranked or be a conference champion if you're not in one of the power conferences. And I think BYU is able to do it to an extent a little easier because they are BYU, and not slamming BYU, but I hate to be a team, like a group of 5 team does not want to go into Austin or Husky Stadium in November and play essentially a bunch of 4- and 5-star kids. Like BYU has 4-star kids.
I think
the level of like an Oregon.
Yeah. And Pete Thamel, I mean, he just brought it up as a option, but I think what Pete Thamel was trying to say is what we've been saying since we opened up this channel is, Oregon and Washington, the environment looks like it's going to be perfect for the Big Ten to walk in there, make a deal with those two big brands, and to get something done, and probably bring in Amazon as that 4th media partner.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at this point, we can probably assume Amazon, they dip their toe into the pool, they check the temperature. I think for them, they would just jump right in when they know it's the Big Ten and they know the brands that they could potentially have playing on Friday night. And for them, it would, basically they would have the premier rivalry on the West Coast in Oregon and Washington. USC and UCLA is not really, it gets viewers because it's just in LA, but it's not, the Oregon-Washington rivalry is intense.
Yeah.
It is some of the nastiest stuff that's said between people.
Yeah.
And it's really highly underrated nationally. Like it's a big rivalry. And they would get that. They would have Ohio State and Michigan. They would have USC and Ohio State, or USC and Michigan. They would have like all the big Iowa and Minnesota, Wisconsin. They would have all the big rivalries.
Yeah.
And they could potentially move, say, like Washington at Rutgers to Friday night.
Yep. Nothing wrong with that. Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. They're just flexing. They're just going to flex the worst. They'll just flex the game there.
Yeah.
And, I think like Ohio State, their big thing, or Michigan and Penn State's like, we don't really want to play on Friday night. One time a year, you're going to play on Friday night. Okay, so Ohio State's playing at home against, Central Michigan or something like that. Like they're not in a non-conference game. Like that's your one time. That wouldn't even bother them.
Yeah.
The one game. So.
Alrighty, Becky, we got to go.
It's buzzing out here. Everybody expects that Arizona's gone by Wednesday, and then Washington and Oregon will probably be in talks by Friday. So anyway,
got it.
Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.
Craig is always your option.
Beautiful. Thank you, Becky. Call again. Miss Washington Husky, thank you so very much. I do want to bring up a point. We talk about the great rivalry of Washington and Oregon, and all these Big Ten schools have these great rivalries. Hold on.
Call from
Eric, go Cougs.
Okay, Eric, can you hold on a moment, please? Turn down your. I got an echo here.
I got it muted, buddy.
Okay, can you hold on a second?
Absolutely, my friend.
Okay, so the Big Ten, at the end of the year, the Big Ten lines up all their it's rivalry weekend, right? It's Michigan, the game, Michigan, Ohio State, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the most played games among Power 5 schools in the country. Iowa, Nebraska play on Black Friday, so that doesn't really count. But so you got all the, Northwestern, Illinois, Purdue plays Indiana. They got Michigan State, Penn State lined up, Rutgers, Maryland. I read an article the other day that Michigan and Ohio State want to move the big game, the biggest rated game throughout the country. They want to move it from the last game of the year somewhere in the middle of the season. Why? Because Michigan and Ohio State don't want to have to play back-to-back games if those two teams met in the Big Ten championship game, because the Big Ten won't have any more divisions. Now, I don't think the network Fox is going to want to move Ohio State and Michigan off that third week in November weekend, the last week of the season. However, I can see the big rivalry games throughout the Big Ten now get mixed in all over the schedule. So we might see Wisconsin and Minnesota third week of the season. We might see Old Bucket, Indiana, Purdue the sixth week of the season. It might get all mixed up because you don't want to line up all those rivalry games at the last week of the season. UCLA and USC, maybe give them the spotlight the seventh week of the season. So just to put that out there, Eric, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Hey, no problem, brother. You're always worth the wait. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a few. I'll try to be fast because I have 3 or 4 really quick questions for you. But real quick, I missed your live show Sunday because I had to go to. I was in sacrament meeting, which is like communion for your faith. So more important things, but I wish I would have been there.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely watch it. I heard it was a great show, and I caught this one. But I have 3 or 4 quick questions for you. The first one is, and I don't want Utah in the Big 12. I'll be blunt. As far as I'm concerned, they can rot away in the Pac-12, the new Pac-12, really Mountain West Conference, as far as I'm concerned. But if they do come over to the Big 12, do you think that'll be a rivalry game that's played on Thanksgiving? It's such a huge rivalry, and it gets such good ratings. Do you think Utah BYU might be played on that Thanksgiving weekend time when they do all the big rivalries?
I think if Utah joins the Big 12, I think Fox and ESPN will figure out what the best place to put that game, because it's going to be a huge, huge watched game. It's going to be great ratings. It might be something early in the year. Again, they might have to spread out their rivalry games throughout the schedule as well. So I don't know. I don't know. It could be at the end of the year, but it might not be as well. So I have no idea.
I was thinking with Oklahoma and Texas, and Oklahoma State not really being played at that time of year anymore, it would give them a big game to play around Thanksgiving, and BYU and Utah always used to play it then. So if they come to the league, which frankly, I'll be honest, I don't want them to, but if they, for my own personal reasons and things I know about the past history, but if they do, then I hope they play it at the end of the year because it makes it a lot more fun. I really want at least one more Western school because it makes it easier for BYU for travel, and then they're not doing as many of the late games out on the west side of the country. So I'm hoping they get one more Western team. But are you like me? I think this stop at 14 is a leverage play to get teams to jump. Are you convinced that that he's serious about stopping at 14, or do you think he's going to go
I don't think he's serious about stopping at 14.
I don't think so either.
And I don't think anyone believes that. It was a leverage ploy. It was a leverage ploy to put pressure on Arizona.
It sounds like it might have worked.
Yeah, yeah.
You think he would be smart enough not to believe it too, though, if we all know it's a leverage play. The other thing I was wondering is if we do get some ACC teams, I would really love for us to get at least one of the North Carolina schools. I know we can't get North Carolina. They're probably going to the Big Ten or the SEC. But I was hoping, do you think we might have a chance, say, at getting like North Carolina State and Virginia Tech? I think those would be the two best gets outside of the main ones going to the Big and the SEC.
Well, I would rank them as Pittsburgh, Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State. I would put those four on the same level. I think those are the four schools that could be attainable for the Big 12 and that would elevate the Big 12's total value. Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Louisville, and North Carolina State.
I would really like to get North Carolina State just because I just feel North Carolina is such a growing state and has the most.
Yep.
But it'd be interesting to see what happens, Greg. I won't keep you too long today. I just want to say you have a great show. We're thankful for you and your wife. And I know it's like a week late, but I forgot to thank you say happy anniversary to you last time. So I sent you a DM, but a belated happy anniversary. And tell the little general we appreciate all the time she sacrifices from you for us. And we're not just thankful for you, we're thankful for her.
Got it.
And like I tell everybody when I close, let's all stick together here. No personal attacks. It's football, but I just can't wait till there's actually a kickoff and we can actually start talking about football, baby.
There's going to be a lot of crying. There's going to be a lot of crying on this channel. There's going to be a lot of celebrating on this channel. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate the phone call.
You have a great day.
Call
and
again,
you're going to be crying when BYU finishes in the top 6 or 7 in the league, buddy.
Thank you.
I'm just joking. Bye-bye, buddy.
College football playoff edits. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity to this channel, keeping the lights on for us. This is the best channel for realignment talk, hands down. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, and I hope it becomes the college football YouTube channel that you all go to when we talk about the day in, day out of the football season. We're going to have watch parties. We're going to have Saturday night aftermath. We're going to talk about all the games that happen. There's going to be a lot of crying. There's going to be a lot of crying and complaining about the refs. So we'll see. I hope we see all of you come on in. Keep coming on in to college football's peek around the corners. Thank you so much. College football playoff edits. I appreciate your generosity. Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye. Greg is the godfather of conference realignment and the godfather, or I added the godfather again. I'm sorry. In college football talk. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye. Thank you for your super chat, for your continued, holy smokes, generosity to this channel. Thank you, Mr. Jones. I appreciate it. And we have a long ways to go with everything that's going on right now. Brett McMurphy with those eye emojis. That's got me on the edge. That has me on the edge. There's breaking news tonight about Notre Dame with a big apparel deal that they got. It's like $10 million a year. There's stuff breaking all over the place. But the big news is Pac-12's meeting is tomorrow. The Pac-12 collapse is near. It looks like it's very near. Again, the phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Maria, Hernandez, Garcia, Flugar, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, tacos, tamales, tostadas, frescas. As usual, the moderator of this college football channel is talking about food, and food. Okay, here we go. Notre Dame, $10 million. Daniel Montcastle, yep, $10 million. Woo! The rumors is Apple deals at $20 million, but covers the Comcast payoff. Is that enough to keep those 9 schools together? Because that's about $25 million then. If you're paying off Comcast debt, if that is true, that's about $25 million. Is that enough? You know what? I don't think it's going to be enough because I shouldn't say nobody, but at least those Arizona schools do not want to go all streaming. Steve, Mr. Cincinnati Bearcat. Holy smokes, there's so much going on tonight. ACC, Pac-12. Wow. Floor's yours.
Yeah, a lot going on for sure. The Pac-12, as you said, is probably done after they see the numbers and more importantly, as you have said from the start, the distribution part of the deal. For 90% streaming and 22 million, it'll be like a fire drill in the next week or two. And it's unfortunate for guys my age to see it happen.
Yeah.
Because of what I remember the PAC as being. But realignment doesn't ever sleep.
No.
At least right now. So
yeah,
that's what it is. And I wanted to make a point that you and I have discussed quite a few times where people were saying, well, Apple will come in at 40 million or 35 million or whatever. When you're negotiating a buyer and a seller, there's one of their top fears is one or the other leaving money on the table. Okay?
Yes,
what
sir.
the market will bear. For what the market will bear, leaving money on the table. Apple's not going to leave money on the table. If they look at the numbers of Pac-12 viewership, which is real bad, they're not going to pay $35 million for that. They're just not going to. It's as simple as that. I think ESPN and Fox made that real plain. Real plain with their initial offers, and that kind of set the market as far as I'm concerned. When it comes down to that, it's just unfortunate. I'm not taking this is not a happy moment for me.
Yeah.
And my goodness, I remember. I'm sure you grew up in the Midwest, Greg, and
yeah.
One of the things you did on New Year's Day at 5:00 in the Midwest, no matter who was playing from the Big Ten, you watched the Rose Bowl.
Yep. It was never the Gophers, but yep.
Well,
But I did watch it. Yes.
I lived in Ohio and obviously lived in Michigan for 10 years. So, I got to be around Ohio State fans and Michigan fans a lot during the Rose Bowl. Exciting times, great memories of those games. And it's sad. And I'm a junkie. I mean, I watch Oregon State and Washington State at 10:30 in the evening on Saturdays here in the Eastern Time Zone. I do.
Yes, sir.
So it's just not a joyous day for me, and I hope everybody finds a place other than Cal and Stanford. Who knows? Can't figure those guys out. But
yeah.
I'm talking to Washington State and Oregon State. I hope they find a place that they can be happy and still be as relevant as they have been. And not that they're nationally relevant, but you know what I'm saying? That
Yep.
they don't lose a lot of ground.
Yep.
They don't lose a lot of ground. So, and to finish up, here's what I'll say. And you and I have talked about this. Cincinnati had really as good a success as anybody in the Big East in football. They got left behind. Everybody else found a place just about.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say to the Oregon States and the Washington States. Cincinnati made it to the college football playoffs on a G5 budget. It's not impossible to do. It's not
Yes, sir.
impossible. You know, it's just not. So anyhow, I know I've been on the Pac-12 of how they've handled this, but it's still not. I'm still not jumping for joy knowing that there's not going to be a Pac-12.
Yeah, you got it,
So.
sir. I appreciate
All right.
that sentiment. Appreciate the phone call, and I appreciate you, Steve. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great evening.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too. Gophers open camp. PJ Flex got me pumped up. I might have to raise that prediction up. I might have to go from 6-6 to 7-5. I'm feeling optimistic. Even though they have just a brutal schedule and they don't have any depth on the back seven. But we'll see on defense. Can't wait till it all starts. Again, the number is 763-260-1333. The Pac-12 is on the verge of collapse. Pete Thamel reported earlier today that, look, it's going to be all three or none of them. It's going to be Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah together, and it's probably going to be together. And no, those reports are erroneous. Those reports are false that says that Utah hasn't been picking up the phone for the Big 12. The reports are accurate that Oregon and Washington have been communicating with the Big 10 more than ever. Then we got Brett McMurphy putting out emoji eyeballs on Twitter. Not saying anything else. He doesn't do that. So there's something big is brewing. So buckle up, brace for impact. Let's get back to your comments. Let's get back to your phone calls. Let's go. Let's go. A lot of little general talk. A lot of food being talked. Holy moly. And that's why I'm the fat guy from Minnesota. So, Okay. Cal and Stanford, our Giants. I hope they can find a spot. Paulie Walnuts saying a lot of things that we all agree with that. Renee, I have Minnesota making a bowl game this year, solid 6-6. The Minnesota Golden Gophers have won 29 games the last 3 full seasons. I think they take a step back, but I'm very excited about Athan Kalakmanis, the Greek rifle, the quarterback. I think he's the best skilled quarterback we've had at Minnesota for decades. I just think our defensive front line, I think they're going to be pretty good. We got one great linebacker. We got one great cornerback, Justin Wally. I got to see the other guys make a contribution. I got to see that they can play. Minnesota versus Northwestern, August 31st, Thursday night on Fox. I can't wait. We're going to be doing a watch party here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be doing that game watch party, so come on in. We're going to be doing big games throughout the year, not just Gopher games, because we're a national. I do watch party for Gopher games. I do watch party for the big games during the season. Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the moderator. We've talked about it. We're going to be on all day Saturday, from morning, afternoon to the evening at Peek Around the Corner, covering all in college football. Some of it's going to be a watch party. We're going to be talking about college football in the chat with phone calls as we watch a game. Although I can't have the game streaming on my channel, but you're watching the game at home. I'm watching it here. Real-time reactions to a big football game. And then we're going to be looking at other games, looking at the stats, the results. We'll put the results on the ticker. We're going to be talking college football from morning, noon to night on Saturdays throughout the season. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. It helps us with the algorithms of the YouTube so very much. And share the video with the family and friends. We haven't even been around a year yet. And if you don't know me, check me out at Flag Empire. The Twitter account is on the ticker below the screen. Check us out. Check out the pin tweet at my Twitter account. You'll read a story from the Los Angeles Times about us, how we broke the USC story. Go back to our episodes of the last months and see how we broke and we were on this Colorado to the Big 12 story from the get-go, and Arizona is the next one. Act 13, Holy Smokes Theater. Arizona is at the center of the stage in Arizona State in Utah for the very first time at Holy Smokes Theater in the P8 and the Pac-12 saga. Arizona State and Utah are at the edge of the stage. For the very first time, they got off the rows of seats and now they're standing on the edge. They're not quite on the stage. They're at the edge of the stage. Arizona is still all alone sitting there. Brett Yormark is nowhere to be found. He's not needed there anymore. George Kliavkoff, he's still there. He's trying to hold his conference together. Wow. And UConn's all the way back to the 25th row as they're seeing the dominoes not quite fall in the way they need them to fall. So brace for impact here tomorrow. Pac-12 meetings. Again, give us a call, 763-260-1333. I remember that Minnesota UNLV game. Sticky Sports, Greg. Thanks for the great coverage as always, and 6-6 is the right number for you Gophers. Season can't get here fast enough. It cannot get here fast enough. No truer words have been said tonight than Sticky Sports. Thank you so much for your generosity. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Sky, Penn State, Nebraska, Rutgers, Maryland, UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Miami. That could be someone's Big Ten schedule one day. Aww. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Holy smokes. Tomorrow, it's August. Tomorrow, it's August. Football starts at the end of August. Yeah, and if you notice, Rebecca, some people never ever bat an eye and say, I got it wrong. Or I've changed my position. I thought this way. Now I thought this way. They never do that. They just run from day to day, trolling everybody, forgetting about what they said yesterday, the week before, the month before. And we had peek around the corner while we nailed the Colorado story. We still took a couple L's with the smallest little details. And we started off that show talking about the L's that we took, not talking about all the W's. And yet the people who got it all wrong can't even admit one moment that they might have gotten something wrong. It says something about the character of some people.
Call from
Rick, KWKSU.
Rick, I think it's Kansas State. Rick, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes, it's Kansas Wesleyan University and K-State University.
Got it. All righty, sir. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Man, this is just a crazy thing that's going on.
Yeah.
I do think that Arizona is going to come in, and I'm thinking Arizona State. I'm still kind of don't know about Utah, but maybe it is true. But I think UConn will be one that'll come in the next round after, a couple years or something, and they'll probably come in with somebody else.
Okay.
Is that what you think?
I happen to think all three are coming.
You think all three of those? Okay.
I think Yormark. I think Yormark lands the shot. I think he gets all 4 corner schools. I think the Pac-12 media deal tomorrow is not going to be what the Arizona schools want at all. They're going to move eventually. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. I think there's a little bit more work to do. I could be wrong on that. And then Utah, when they see the Arizona schools go, I think they probably give them a call and say, look, are you guys going? And they're going to say yes. And then they're going to say, okay, we're coming along with you.
Well, didn't Arizona Board of Regents have a meeting today? Because I thought I saw something where it said
it didn't have anything to
7:31.
do. It did not have anything to do with a conference affiliation.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay, cool. Well, I think that's all I had to say. I'm just glad that it's all happening. I'm ready to get it over with because I'm ready for football to start.
Let's go. Let's get some football going. Thanks for calling, and please call again. Okay?
I will. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jay Go Blue says Big Ten adds North Carolina, Notre Dame, FSU, Miami, Washington, Oregon. Greg's got the Hawks winning the West. What say you? Oh, I know that kills me. That absolutely kills me. The Big Ten media poll had a 1 vote difference between Wisconsin and Iowa. They had Wisconsin winning it. But 1 vote difference. Give this man a like, guys. Thank you, Bull Stacker. I appreciate you coming in, reminding everybody to give this channel a like if you like the content. If you don't put up a like. If you don't, if it's not for you, we are not for everybody here at Peek Around the Corner. We're a national college football channel. We only talk college football, so that's not for everybody. We have fun here. In my predictions against the spread were so dreadful last year. The chat, the Peek Around the Corner community called me Greg the Cooler, but this year I'm going to be Greg the Heater. I also sing on this channel. I've sang a lot of songs. I've done a lot of damage. That's what we do at Peek Around the Corner. We have fun, okay? So it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But the channel's been growing like crazy. The number of views we get per the number of subscribers we have is off the chains. Thank you so very much, PATC community.
Tristan Fives.
Tristan is on the line. The floor is yours, good sir.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah, I wanted to call in and just add a little, I think, a couple of data points here in regards to this FSU talk.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
There's a lot of people speculating that they were going to be trying to move for the 2024 season.
Sure, which would be before August 15th. Yep.
Right. That the August 15th deadline that's coming up is to make that move for the 2024 season. So if you look at history here, recent history with the Big Ten and SEC, neither conference has taken in more than 1 or 2 schools at a time. And both conferences have 2 schools coming in the 2024 season already. So I think that argues against it. Strongly. And then in addition to that, if FSU were to come in 2024, that would make either the Big Ten or the SEC have an odd number, and those 2 conferences, whichever one they went to, would then be obligated to take a 4th just to even it back up.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a realistic time frame. Now, it might be that they are going to do some kind of announcement pertaining to conference alignment, but it's not going to be for 2024. That's all I'm trying to say.
Got it. Yeah, and I think, look, the odds are very, very small that that's going to happen before August 15th, that they're going to have withdrawal notice to the ACC. The reason we're talking about it, first of all, we speculate on this show, besides giving out good intel, is there is some real smoke, some serious people who are looking at it. They're hunting this down. They're keeping an eye on this story. It's not just make-believe. So there's something going on. I had somebody tell me the reason why some people are taking this serious, that Florida State, that they might just do this, is, and I'm not going to get into too much details, but is just the personalities of the people involved at Florida State. It takes a certain personality to be this risky, to gamble on this, even though it's risky to stay where you're at for the next 13 years. But it's the personalities, the people, the relationships. That's why some people, serious people, are taking it serious that Florida State might actually do this. They might actually pull the trigger. That's about as deep I can go on that, but that's, but go ahead.
Well, no, I agree with what you're saying. They're aggressive, and they're leery of being stuck behind in a lower revenue bracket with their peers in the Big Ten and SEC. Right, so they feel compelled to act.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with all of that. I think that all makes sense. I did also want to mention to you, and this will be the last thing, in case anyone's interested. I don't know, Greg, but are you aware that, do you remember the dude of West Virginia when he first broke this realignment thing, and there was everyone flocking to his West Virginia forum and trying to get realignment information? Do you remember that era?
Yep, Christopher Lambert, yep.
Yeah. So what I've learned over the years, because I was one of the people that flocked out there and was trying to get information, he was getting information about flight details, and they involved planes going into West Virginia. The information that he getting was correct, but he drew the wrong conclusions. What was actually happening at that juncture was that Florida State and Clemson were actually preparing to go to the SEC at that time. And what happened is that it actually got to the point where, and there's a sort of an internet legend about this, where ESPN scrolled it on their little news ticker saying that, sources say that Clemson and Florida State are set to join the SEC, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame put an end to that. They reached out to ESPN and expressed interest in being a partial member, with the condition, of course, that those two schools stay where they are.
Yeah.
So I learned information. I've learned information over the years from people I trust that that's actually what happened.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that sheds any light on what might be going on today, but that is part of the recent history of both Clemson and Florida State's saga, their quest to get equal revenue. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I think to piggyback off that, I think Florida State feels like they've been screwed, right, by ESPN. And it's not just about the last handful of years, not even back to 2016. Before that, what you just brought up, they just feel like they've been absolutely screwed over, and they're not going to take it anymore. And sometimes we talk about a lot of things here at Peek Around the Corner, but the one ingredient to all this is personalities, right? Personalities. A couple people can make huge decisions that can help or hurt a program, a university, and we might be witnessing that right now, a big-time move from Florida State. We shall see.
Yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, I appreciate your show, Greg.
Great call.
Keep up the good work.
Call again, please.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Talk to you later.
Sir. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
Hey, Greg, it's Jeff Watson again.
Jeff Watson, thanks for calling. The floor is yours. Oh, can you hold one moment, please?
Yeah, sure, Greg.
Stephen McNeely, Super Chat. Thank you so much, Stephen, for your generosity. I appreciate it to the channel. Thank you. Greg just got in, so don't know if you already answered this question. If Florida State were to join the Big Ten, would that mean the SEC said no to them? Well, I don't. I don't think it would necessarily mean that. Again, we don't think it's going to happen before August 15th. We don't have that confirmation. We do think the smoke is absolutely real. There's serious people looking at this. There's serious people who think it might just happen. It's not just a story for clicks and views and all that stuff. It is, and I just talked about it because there's some real personalities in Tallahassee that want to make this happen. No, I don't necessarily think that. I don't think Florida State, because they joined the Big Ten, they were told no by the SEC, or if they joined the SEC, they were told no by the Big Ten. Thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, sir, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, I had a couple questions for you. You seem to be, what do you call now, the Gopher Godfather?
I don't know. There's a lot of names. I got a lot of names. A Godfather, Gopher Godfather, Fat Guy from Minnesota, Carnival Barker, Clout Chaser, Unidentified Flugarian Object, whatever you want to call me.
Very, very good. It's not, well, at least these are the good names I've seen.
Yeah.
On Twitter, not the bad ones. So, no, I had a couple questions. I was hoping to get your expert opinion about it. Even though the likelihood of the Ducks and the Huskies going to the Big 12 seems low, why would the Big 12 want them in the first place? Because just like they will take up the premier slots in TV for the existing members, similar to how the Big 12 middle members see it as well. So unless there's more money involved and the contract gets renegotiated, everybody says, okay, great, we all get $3-4 million more. Why are they wanting to bring them in?
Okay, I'm gonna answer your question. Your phone is kind of, I can't really hear you, but I do got your question. So if you can get off the line and I'll answer your question and you can listen to it. Is that okay?
Yeah, is that any better or is it?
No, not any better.
Yeah, it's the AirPods. Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead. I'm gonna answer the question. Appreciate the question. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
What was the question again? I forgot what the question was. What was the question? Somebody in the chat. It just completely left me. Sorry, Mr. Watson. What was the question? Somebody give me the question again in the chat. Oh, why would the Big 12 want Washington and Oregon? Why would they do that? Okay. Well, first of all, if they were able to bring in a Washington and Oregon, they would probably elevate the entire media package. I think each one of those schools could probably make a little bit more. I don't think it would just stay at $31.7 million. And then if Oregon and Washington left, they would put out an exit fee of what? $80 million. It's 2 years of exit fee money. So that's more money for the conference. Again, we've put it at Oregon and Washington, about a 30% chance that the Pac-12 implodes, that they would join the Big 12. We think, obviously, there's a better chance that they're going to go to the Big 10, and I think that's how it's going to play out. But yeah, I can see what now. Look, Yormark, he's talking with Fox. He knows. He's probably got a pretty good idea that Fox is trying to push Oregon to the Big 10 and Washington to the Big 10. He's going to go for it. He's going to go for it all. But he's probably, you know what? If Yormark lands Utah, if Yormark lands the both Arizona schools, and this is after Bowlesby added Cincinnati, UCF, Florida, parts of Ohio, Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston. Wow. Wow. Historically, we're going to look back at this and say, how did it happen? Because the Pac-12 did not move on anything.
Call from
JD.
JD, thanks for calling again, sir. Mr. Seminole, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Doing good.
I'll try not to start overwhelming your phone lines too much. I just
No, go ahead. We want you to overwhelm the phone lines. No. You call every time. You call when you want. You call when you can. Okay?
All right, sir. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I've been working on some things tonight, and I caught your monologue, and I've caught a lot of your show. I haven't caught every minute, so if I say anything that's redundant, I apologize.
No problem.
Gene Williams, the founder of War Chant, he's since last week he's done a really good job, kind of filling people in regularly throughout the day on things that are going on, and along with him and then some others. August 15th is a real date, but what it is, it's leverage.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah.
Florida State's not waiting. Now my assumption is that ESPN and the SEC have told FSU and Clemson, down the road, before things get really catastrophic for you, we'll step in. Now ESPN's really not doing that great. Financially, you don't know if they're going to be sold. You don't know if they're going to be, financial backers are going to be brought in. You really don't know what's going on. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Now, this is me talking. That's not Gene talking. But so there's just a lot of uncertainty. FSU has made it clear, and some of the insiders have made it clear on the boards and so on. They're not waiting. So I think the Florida State to the big is real, but we also know from Gene and his contacts, and Gene's got contacts in the Big Ten. He's got he's got contacts at ESPN. He's got contacts at FSU. Gene's one of the OGs as far as fan sites. I mean, his has been around for 20 plus years, so he knows people. Yeah. And so there's a lot going on. And I'm sorry if I lose my train of thought.
That's okay.
But what he has reported, and some people, were posting it that ESPN was meeting with FSU this morning. I think what Gene actually said is, and what he's been insinuating, ESPN's a little nervous right now.
Sure.
They're with the threat of everything that's happening and coming forward. It's got their attention. They're having meetings. They're trying to meet with Florida State and Clemson. From what we understand, or what he is suggesting about Clemson is ready to be a partner with Florida State in this, but they're more than happy to let Florida State take the lead. Okay. You follow me? And Florida State has decided they're going to.
Okay.
So if you think about what Florida State's leverage is, and it has to do, with exiting the conference and everything else, that August 15th date means a lot. It really does. And I think they at least, and this is my speculation, they want to know what they're doing before then in case they have to announce.
Okay.
And so there are some rumors floating around, and it's coming from some sources that we're not used to seeing those people talk. You follow me? So I'm not saying they're lying and they're being untruthful.
No, I get it.
But some of them are saying, oh, no, the deal with the Big's done, but it'll be announced before the 15th. Those are just one or two voices.
Yeah.
One thing I will tell you, like on the boards, or at least the ones that I've seen, that I'm mostly on War Chant.
Yeah.
The insiders, and these are people that they all know each other, and other people know them. They know they've been around for years. They know people in high positions and whatever. All those folks, they're not saying a word.
Yeah.
They're not posting. They're not commenting. Up until last Wednesday or Thursday, they would talk frequently. They're not saying a word.
Well,
and
yeah.
So it's kind of like, they just all, it's kind of like, 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 it's kind of like Yes, sir. They've hushed up now, and so no, I believe there's a lot of smoke, and I think it's all real. And I think FSU has just decided can't wait anymore. We just can't, and they put everybody on notice. I think they're more than happy to go to the Big. My opinion is the university would be happy to go to the Big. I think the FSU media and most of the fan base would choose the SEC just because of, you've got rivalries. You've got 7 universities that you'd be within 4 or 5 hour drive of.
I think Florida State would probably go to the one that is willing to risk and to do this, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think what a lot of people have suggested about the SEC is accurate. Does the SEC value Florida State and Clemson? Oh, absolutely. But they've already got Florida and South Carolina. So they would be happy to add Florida State and Clemson down the road. We're talking about 4 or 5 years from now. Well, we can't wait 4 or 5 years. It's just not possible. People really haven't really looked that far into the future. What college football is going to look like in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You think the doomsday scenarios look a certain way. You have no idea. Mm-hmm. The Power 2 are going to dominate college football, and maybe a third conference, which would probably be the Big 12, would still be a factor.
There's going to be a third
Everybody else is going to – go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying – I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I think there's definitely going to be a third conference. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But it's just everybody else is going to be like Division II.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they'll be Division II, but it's just the way everything's going, and it's just the money.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that – and if you need to cut me off if I'm talking too much.
No, that's okay. It's okay. Give it another minute.
But anyway, well, don't get me on the GOR because you'll be here the rest of the night.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, yes, sir. That's just. I think the smoke is absolutely real.
Yeah, it is.
And August 15th is leverage, it's not a bluff. It's not.
All righty. So, hey JD, call again. Keep calling. Because this story is, it's only just begun. So.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the call, man. Wow. Holy smokes. I got to tell you, what a night. What a night. All this information, right? All this information. Jason Shears reporting. We told you at Peek Around the Corner tonight that Washington, Oregon, the communication has kicked up with the Big Ten since at least Wednesday, the Wednesday before Colorado made it official on Thursday. So there's things are brewing. All this stuff going on, right? And the one thing that I keep going back to is the great Brett McMurphy at Action Network with those eye emojis tweet. Come on, man. He doesn't tweet that. He doesn't put that out there. He's not just doing it. Hey, there's something he can't talk about. There's something that he knows. And Andrew Marchand of Sports Media Broadcast retweets Brett McMurphy's eye emoji tweets with an emoji of the sunglasses. Come on, man. There's something. Buckle up. Buckle up. I don't know. I think this might be bigger than the Holy Smokes Theater can even hold right now. The popcorn line is out the door. The concession stands, we need more employees. We need a bigger loading dock staff here at Peek Around the Corner. So stick with us. We are going to shut it down for tonight. We've been on the air for more than 2 hours. We appreciate you all coming in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Check out Flug Empire Twitter because we give you a heads up when we're coming on next. We don't know when we're coming on next. You got to keep your head on a swivel. We could be coming on at midnight if we need to. 6 o'clock in the morning, we've had breakfast shows at Peek Around the Corner. We go where the story goes. We skate where the puck is going to be. That's what we do at Peek Around the Corner. We have the curiosity to look at every little angle, every little story, and we do the best to provide to you the Peek Around the Corner, the most accurate information, hopefully in an entertaining fashion. So stick with us, buckle up, brace for impact. It's crazy out there. It's crazy out there. So thank you all to all those great phone calls, the great comments, and the donations that keep this channel going. We appreciate it. Myself and the little general. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.